All right. Well, hi, Reagan Farr, co-founder and CEO of Silicon Ranch, and excited to have our conversation today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have this opportunity to talk to you and maybe shed a different light on what's going on with your project. So welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you being here. So um, to get started, we like to I'm not from the South, but I've learned a lot. We like to know who we're talking to when we talk to them. So why don't we go back and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where'd you go to high school,
Uh,
if you can remember, where'd you go to college? Tell us a little bit about about yourself. So
oh, sure. So, thanks for the question. I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then quickly moved. My dad was a college professor. He was actually a professor of poultry science.
wow,
He taught at Cornell for a bit. So as a very young child, I lived in Ithaca, and my mother, who was from Louisiana, did not like the Cornell winters. So with two young children,
it's
they quickly
that's a far cry from the South, from the Gulf Coast. Yeah,
yeah. So moved from Ithaca to Athens, Georgia. My dad taught at University of Georgia for a little while, and then he had an opportunity to go back and teach at LSU, where my grandparents were. And I was very fortunate that he took that position at LSU because I got to grow up next to my mom's parents, who I was very close to. And a college campus environment is a really enjoyable place to grow up around.
yeah.
Student of Louisiana public schools, went to Baton Rouge High School. I guess the claim to fame of Baton Rouge High is I went there with Bobby Jindal, who ended up being the governor of Louisiana
Very cool.
for a while, and went to undergrad and grad school at LSU, and then decided to take a pivot. I'd always thought I was going to be a professor like my father, but decided to try out law school. I went to Chapel Hill, North Carolina,
Very good.
and then really moved to Nashville sight unseen for my very first job, and founded a very welcoming community, vibrant, it's growing community. It's been growing for 2 decades plus. Um,
Yeah.
and so never left. Fortunate that my wife, who I met when I was at Chapel Hill, moved and found a job in Nashville, and we've been there, and it's where we're raising our family.
Yeah. Well, so you said LSU, so we just lost, like 85% of the audience. So
I always feel like everyone in Alabama should thank LSU because we gave you Nick Saban. So
there you go. That is true. And man, what a powerhouse he is for sure. Now, go back to your first job. Workforce development is very big in this area. And so I always like to ask about a person's first job and maybe some of the lessons that they learned from that because it is such a formative time in your personal history, if you will. Do you have a job that you can look back to where you were flipping burgers or?
oh yeah, amazing experience, and I'm always so grateful that I had it. So when I was growing up, they're not too common now, but there used to be independent Rexall drugstores that had also soda fountains.
Yep, I
So
remember.
I started at 15 working at Dearman's drugstore in
Okay.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and stayed there for well over a decade.
Yeah.
And the owner was also the pharmacist, became a dear friend and mentor of mine. And it was a wonderful relationship. By the end, I was helping do the books and
Wow.
helping and supporting him in the pharmacy. But I started out as a cashier at Dearman's drugstore.
No, that's cool. And any lessons that you kind of remember from that time period?
Definitely. So we uh, be- because we ran a soda fountain,
Hmm.
and a whole lot of employees coming in and out, and I think really an appreciation of how hard it is to run a small business.
Yeah.
And Mr. Dearman was it was a very successful store. We had in-store charge accounts, delivery, all these things you don't see anymore
Before the times.
before the time. But I realized how hard it is to run a business. That people, you see them at work, but they all have personal lives, and there's always something going on in there. So we were always dealing with some employee who had something very meaningful going on in their life, and then you learn about customer service. I was there so long, people would come up and just put their stuff on the counter, and they wouldn't want to tell me their name. They like really expected me to be able to remember them and know how to charge their accounts. So it was an incredible experience. I'm always so grateful. Mr. Dearman's passed away, but I'm still friends with some of his grandchildren, and I always tell them what an amazing experience to have.
Yeah, it's cool to look back and see, kind of how people that mentored us have, framed things for, like in our lives. Now you co-founded Silicon Ranch.
Yes, I am one of the three co-founders.
Okay. Now, can you tell us? I mean, obviously, you guys have been around since 2011. Did I read that
That's
correctly?
correct.
Okay. And so, I mean, you've been around a while. And I know that a business this big doesn't just happen overnight. So, what was that founding like? Because there's a lot of people here in Mobile. This a number of years ago, the Chamber of Commerce did a study, or they had a study conducted that found that there were like 27,000 micro businesses in Mobile. This is a town of a small business, kind of environment. And so, what can you tell us about the actual starting, of the business, and maybe some of the things that you guys had to deal with and getting formed and stuff like that?
Yeah, so great question. Maybe a little bit of background. So I was fortunate. I was uh, appointed to be the Deputy Commissioner of Revenue when
Okay.
Governor Bredesen was elected. And I was a non-political technical appointment. I had not been involved in the campaign or anything like that. I worked all the time, so I didn't pay a ton of attention to politics. But took the job as I was at a Big Four accounting firm, and they had asked me if I would move to Miami to help stand up a practice in Miami.
Mhm.
And I didn't think she wasn't my wife then, but I was definitely going to ask her to marry
Yeah,
me, and I
yeah.
didn't think she would move. So it's interesting. I took a pretty meaningful pay cut to join government, thinking I'm going to do this for 18, 24 months and then figure out what's next.
Mhm.
And I was very fortunate to join the administration of Governor Bredesen. And because I had had a background in tax consulting, merger and acquisitions, and always operating with large businesses, they pulled me into a lot of discussions about recruiting business and industry to the state of Tennessee.
Mhm.
And Governor Bredesen, who had been a very successful businessman before he was elected governor, his experience had been communities recruit you with incentives and all types of promises.
Mhm.
And he said, once you invested and created the jobs that you had committed to, oftentimes the Department of Revenue or some other agency would come in and say, well, that's kind of what you understood, but that's actually not how things work.
It's
So
the
he's
old
like,
rug pull.
so he, under his leadership, he said, I want the Department of Revenue to be involved in all of these recruiting discussions on the front end so that we're making sure any commitment that we make, we follow up on and can live up to.
Mhm.
So it was through working on economic development, we had a whole lot of success under his leadership that I got to know my fellow co-founder, Matt Kisber, who led the Department of Economic Development for the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
And I was deputy commissioner for the governor's first term, and then a commissioner of revenue for his second term. And we did a lot of very meaningful things. We were trying to move Tennessee. Our economic development strategy had really been: we don't have unions. Our citizens will work for less
Mhm.
than they will in the
Yeah.
New England area. So we saw all of these jobs move from the Midwest, New England, to Tennessee. But then with NAFTA, they moved straight from Tennessee to uh, foreign countries.
Right.
So we wanted a more sustainable type of economic development, and we really focused on different approaches, headquarters for our cities, and long story, but I'm coming to how come we
Yeah.
started Silicon Ranch.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge for us during our 8 years of industry work is very easy to get people to come invest and move to Nashville. It's a booming town.
Yeah.
We recruited Volkswagen's North American manufacturing headquarters to Chattanooga. Um, and it was very difficult to get industry to invest in rural Tennessee. And Tennessee's a rural state. It has a few big cities, but it's predominantly rural.
Yep.
Um, what we were seeing toward the tail end, so you can only run for governor twice. So at the end of the 8 years, we were starting to hear from certain companies that wanted access to renewable energy. They were mainly European. TVA, who is the utility in Tennessee,
Hmm.
they were a huge partner in economic development, and they had a very ample hydro resources. They had some nuclear, but they didn't really have any renewables to speak of. And one of our economic development trips, we were trying to recruit different businesses from China to look at investing in Tennessee. And on one of those visits, we went and met with Applied Materials, who's opening a huge multi-100,000 square foot R&D facility in Xi'an, China.
Wow.
So we go to Xi'an. It's a Friday evening, and they're about to have their grand opening on the following Monday. And it's myself, Matt Kisberg, Governor Bredesen, and our handlers, because when you're in China and
Yeah,
in
you gotta
government,
have, yeah.
you always and they thought we were going to have kind of check the box, couple
Yeah.
hour visit. And Governor Bredesen is a Harvard educated physicist and is very into all the details of this stuff. So we ended up spending hours engaging with the head of this R&D facility. And it was in that meeting that they shared what for me was just revolutionary. It's the Moore's Law of solar,
Okay.
which was basically for every doubling of deployed capacity, solar costs were going to come down 15 to 20%.
Okay.
And at the time, solar was a very expensive niche industry. Some environmentalists had put it on their roofs. Some
Yeah.
people who wanted
You
to
had to be hardcore.
you had to really want it.
Right.
Um, so as we were leaving this facility, I was like, it's the one opportunity as we were about to get on the bus that all of our handlers weren't with us. So I asked the head of the lab, I'm like, why are you doing this in China? And what would it take for you to do something like this in Tennessee? And it was, I'll never forget it. He's like, Reagan, look around because the air in Xi'an is so polluted. You can barely see 100 feet. He's like, do you think I want to be
Yeah.
here? He's like, we're here because China has said that they're going to be a leader in the energy transition. And when China says they're going to do something, they do it at scale. And if you're not on the ground, you can't participate in that growth.
Yeah.
And he's like, the challenge with America is we have no national energy policy. And he's like, you have almost 6,000 different utilities. So very hard to do anything at scale in the US. And then he's like, but you live in Tennessee and you have TVA. He's like, if you could get TVA to commit to procuring 50 megawatts of solar each year for 3 years,
Hmm.
I would think about putting a smaller version of this facility in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So to give you a sense, 50 megawatts per year, so each year for 3 years,
Yeah.
the project that we're building in Stockton today is 260 megawatts.
Right.
So the industry was so nascent then. But I came back and I was so excited. I'm like, what type of tax incentive would the state need to enact to encourage TVA to buy 50 megawatts of solar a year?
Yeah.
And started using that and using this brand new Moore's Law of solar that I had looked at. And I was like, you know what? You don't need a state incentive. The economics of this are going to start making sense over time. And if you run this out, solar is going to be one of the lowest cost forms of generation
Yeah.
out there. So very long answer, but as
No,
we were
yeah, it's great.
winding down, uh, Matt and I had decided we wanted to do something entrepreneurial together. And we had a lot of different ideas, everything from retail, which was Matt's background,
Mhm.
to consulting. And I actually put together the business plan conceptually for Silicon Ranch. And the concept was this is a great opportunity. We have all this experience in economic development.
Mhm.
It's a great opportunity to promote rural economic development. We know customers are asking TVA for this power. What TVA don't want to do it? Why don't we provide that service to TVA? And while we're doing it, we can leverage all of our economic development skills. It could be a win-win-win. And we shared the idea with Governor Bredesen, along with a lot of other ideas that we had. And he's like, I like that solar concept. He said, there's something there. He's like, if y'all want to do this together, I would be happy to be your third partner. And uh, we instantly said, that's the idea that we're going to pursue. And I left state government a little bit early, probably 4 months before my term, Governor Bredesen's term ended, and went to start writing the full business plan and doing all the stuff as a small business owner. In state government, I always joke, my executive assistant had an administrative assistant. I walked out of that environment to, I had to find an office, set up a payroll system, get a phone, really just start from scratch. So it was an amazing experience. I always say for small business owners and entrepreneurs, you need a decent idea. It doesn't have to be the perfect idea. You need a decent idea, a game plan for execution, and good timing.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate to get the timing right, because we've really caught the wave of solar just becoming not that premium product. It started becoming first competitive with other types of generation, and then less, more valuable to utilities who are our partners than other forms. So we've grown tremendously from a business that was just going to work in TVA to now we're in 18 states and Canada, and excited to be making investments here in Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back, was this around 2009, 2010 timeframe?
Yeah, we were doing a lot of outreach. So one last, but that
Sure.
is the time frame, 2008 really through
I was going to
2011.
say, you guys decided in the middle of an economic catastrophe, like, hey, I guess this is a good idea. Let's go start solar.
It is funny. I always tell people it's a very capital intensive business. And if anyone had sat me down and said, let me think of all the reasons not to do this, one of them would be, you're starting a capital intensive business with very little capital
Yeah,
in a down economy.
Yeah, in a down economy. Yeah.
So we were fortunate that in those very early years, Governor Bredesen had a balance sheet that could support some of the things that otherwise we would not have been able to do. And then we bridged to, non-friends and family capital partners. And now, it is amazing to me to think we've invested over $8 billion in
Wow.
in solar assets. The majority of that in rural parts of the U.S.
Yeah. You mentioned Moore's law, and is that a similar concept to computer chips, that
Yes.
the doubling, same thing, right?
Same thing. It's
Same
I
concept.
borrow Moore's law of semiconductors to
For
Moore's law.
solar. Okay, I thought so, because the idea used to be that the doubling of the chip, was, it was an exponential thing, but we're realizing now with the advances that we've made that that is not a straight line. That is a hockey stick, kind of thing. Is it changed since then? Is it speeding up as far as the affordability, I guess, of solar?
So solar it's every year modules get more efficient,
Mhm.
and it has been interesting. You get more power out of the same size module today than you did a decade ago.
Yeah.
It's a very steady state, but it really is a semiconductor material.
Yeah.
So it just like our electronics get faster, better, cheaper over time, solar modules have gotten faster, better, less expensive over time.
So I want to transition and start talking about your project. And you mentioned a minute ago that you've done a number of different solar farms in different states and Canada and all this stuff. And I guess one of the questions that I have is, what's a good example of a community that, because you're getting pushback, and I'll just go on record, like, I don't understand it. For property rights, you bought the land, it's not, zoned for, anything other than whatever you want to use it for, right? There's no regulations around the zoning of that land or anything.
It was marketed as
Yeah.
industrial property.
And so, you're of all the people that we could have come in and want to do this project, you all seem like the most amazing fit. From what I understand, you use your solar farms for sheep and cattle and stuff like that. I mean, I just don't understand. So I guess what I was going to ask you is, what's the best example of like a community where you initially got pushback, but that they ultimately came around and now understand the benefits of what it is that you're doing? Do you have anything that you can say to that?
So, very real time. So, almost a carbon copy of this project. We have invested a lot in Georgia, uh, partnered with the co-ops and with Georgia Power, who's a sister company to
Mhm.
Alabama Power. Um, we had a project, same scale, in Bacon County, Georgia, and had worked very closely with the Development Authority, as we did in this instance, and had worked with the county commissioners. And when we first looked at buying the land, everything was unzoned. And over the course of our engagement, they actually drafted a solar ordinance, which we're generally supportive of an ordinance because it sets the rules.
Right.
So you're like, if I comply with this, then we can build the project and there's no questions. So we were pleased with the ordinance. We started construction on our first project, and very similar to what happened here in Baldwin County, Stockton. Um, some uh, citizens started seeing what was happening, and they're like, whoa, no one told us about this big solar thing.
Yeah.
They're buying a whole lot of land. What's going on? They started a Stop Solar Bacon Facebook group. It instantly had thousands of members. Like, and Bacon's not a very big community. Like,
Right.
I don't know if they were all bots, but there were
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people joining and saying what's going on. And so the county commission, at a meeting, they had several hundred people show up when no one ever shows up for these meetings.
Right.
And there were a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. Is this going to poison our groundwater? Are we being taken over by industrial solar? So the very same questions were being asked.
Right.
And they actually, the commission formed a solar committee study group. And it was the first time that I had, because I have a team that usually engages with the communities, but it was the first time I came down and I said, I want to see what's going on. This is like, I watched the video of hundreds of people lining up and sharing very heartfelt concerns about our investment. So we started engaging, hosting meetings like we're doing tonight, meeting with business leaders, sharing more about how we do business, why we do business this way. Brought in First Solar, our module manufacturer, to address a lot of the safety concerns that were being asked about. And then what I think was most meaningful, we took certain members of the legislative body there, the commission, and the solar study committee. We just took them to a couple of our different operating facilities and let them meet with neighbors who had been skeptics at first, let them meet with political leaders in these communities to talk about the benefits of our investment. And, uh, to their credit, they invested this whole day on a bus visiting different sites and meeting with neighbors and political leaders. And at the end of the experience, it took about 4 months of pretty meaningful weekly engagement. You went from hundreds of people showing up concerned about the project to, at the very end, one of the founders of the Stop Solar Facebook group had decided she's running for office, so she was still against the project, but really no one else, everyone else was supportive. So it was a wonderful opportunity to address misinformation, to share the benefits. And on that project, because I spent so much time in the community, I just am so familiar with the benefits that we're going to bring. And they love the ag impact. And it's just so many parallels. It's, unproductive pine plantation that was already going to be timbered.
Yeah.
kind of the exact same situation here. It's planted pine. It's not any type of virgin woodland.
Yeah.
And it was, so I think I'm excited for tonight. I want to meet the skeptics. I want to answer their questions because we have an incredible story to tell. We don't run from our company history.
Well, you have no reason to, from what I see. I mean, everything that you're doing is above board. So,
And, when we built the company, I was kind of say we're purpose built for economic development. We were very early in hiring veterans. We were very early in Buy American before there was any incentive to do so.
mhm.
We buy our land, don't lease it, so we become embedded in the communities where we operate. And we're leaders nationally in agrivoltaics, so figuring out how to combine agriculture with energy production.
Mhm.
And it's such a win-win-win having these huge capital investments without really needing any services. Like we don't ask for water, we don't ask for sewer, we don't put a burden on the schools. So it's such an accretive asset to have in your community. And I think when we get our message out and when people understand this is safe, we're buying 4,500 acres.
It's not a cheap amount of land, for
Not,
sure.
and we're only developing 2,000.
Right.
I was like, something like one of the groups is like, we care about wetlands. I'm like, I'm preserving 800 acres of wetlands and huge buffers.
You have to, right? I mean, I wonder, is that maybe I'm mistaken, but if you buy land and there's wetlands, that doesn't just because you own it doesn't mean that now you can bulldoze it.
No,
I mean, there's
not,
all kinds of regulations against that.
not at all. You can actually, we as a company do not build in wetlands.
Okay.
You can file a plan with the Army Corps,
Yeah.
build in wetlands and pay into a mitigation bank, but that's not our strategy.
Right.
Part of our strategy why we do buy these large tracts is to give us the ability to buffer our neighbors so we're not next to them on the
Right.
property line, and to thoughtfully create wildlife corridors. I always find it like I am all about economic development, conservation. We need more power. And I think sometimes the message or the argument ignores you can't. I'm sure everyone would love to have no development near them, but we need power. There's only so many places on the grid where you can put power. So when I hear you chose Baldwin County because there's no zoning. Like no, we chose Baldwin County because there's power lines there that have capacity, and you can have a responsibly developed solar project like ours that's going to preserve wetlands, incorporate agriculture, or you're going to have a different type of like there will be generation built everywhere there is capacity because we have to,
Right.
as a country.
I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about China's push for solar, and that China did some 300 gigawatts of solar last year to our 40, I want to say.
Yeah, China is blowing past the U.S. in terms of building infrastructure and
energy
generation.
production, and because they realize that the input of electricity into goods and services and manufacturing, causes it can either increase the price or lower the price of that good or service. So.
Yeah, we have proven like what I worry about, and one reason I'm passionate about developing these projects and building them and getting them over the goal line is we as a country have done a poor job, just like with our road system, with our transmission grid. We're living off investments that were made 20 and 30 years ago.
Or longer.
Yeah. And we've grown our economy. People are moving to the Southeast.
Yep.
We're trying to onshore manufacturing because we realize how vulnerable we are that we let all of our manufacturing go offshore.
Mm-hmm.
And just all of that requires power. And we have never had to choose between economic development and affordable, reliable power. But we've kind of used up all of the investment that our parents made.
Yeah.
And now we as a country are having to invest. So power prices are going up. The best thing you can do is add affordable generation where there's already transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the best thing you can do to keep rates going up more slowly. They're going to go up even with this.
Yeah.
And I don't think the country I just did another interview where I said, I'm happy to carry this message, but candidly, utilities need to be more forthright with their customers.
Yeah.
And we all need to be more transparent about the fact we have underinvested in an incredibly important part of our infrastructure.
Yep.
And and even with all of, if we build every plant that we want to build, still not enough. They've got
Yeah.
to be building gas and all types of other generation
It
sources
really
as
is
well.
amazing the amount of electricity that we're gonna need. I mean, it is the one thing that if you listen to Elon or any of the guys that are heading up the AI robotics push that's happening right now, they're all looking to energy as being the one thing that they're worried about. We're recording this, and there's a war going on right now, although nobody's calling it really a war. And energy prices have gone up. Everybody's feeling it. And of course, living on the Gulf Coast, I think we're a little bit more prone to complaining about our power bills because the heat down here is just unbelievably, especially with the humidity, it's just unbelievably unforgivable. And so, I don't know. I just think it's really kind of short sighted. This project has been tied to Meta. And I would like to just say, and you don't have to say anything about, you can if you want to, but I would like to say that regardless of whether this was for Meta or not, this project is something that should be taking on because the energy prices in Alabama will be, better for it. And so, I look back at about a month ago or so in the midst of Mardi Gras, as most of us in this area do, we got the hell out of town and we went to Disney and we were staying on property. And I won't forget, like every exit off of the interstate had solar in the loop, where you go, uh, your what is the way you get on and off the interstate. They put solar there. But then the bigger thing was there was a McDonald's like half a mile away from where we were staying, and that McDonald's was covered in solar panels on the roof, and the lights you could see all had solar panels. And um, I read the little sign there that said I think they had like a thousand or something like that solar panels, but that McDonald's was off grid.
Yeah.
Everything that they were doing was solar powered, and I'm thinking, why in the world would we not, like, it didn't look ugly. It was a beautiful McDonald's. We would love to have it in any neighborhood in Mobile. And why are we fighting this? So I immediately came back and started doing research. And I know we talked about this a little bit, and it doesn't really apply because you're a commercial utility. But Alabama has not been known to be favorable to solar, and so it's exciting to see you guys come in as somebody who is a fan of it, because I think that maybe they just need to also get their feet wet,
Yes.
with solar, and maybe they have and by they I mean the higher ups that make all the political decisions about or policy decisions about solar in our state. I think they just need to get a taste of it and what it can do, and then maybe it will be more feasible for everybody in Alabama to have solar. I don't know that there's a question in there, but if you want to comment, you can. Otherwise,
I would love because it's such a insightful observation. And when we started Silicon Ranch, the only solar company anyone had heard of, and so you obviously look to them as an example, was Solar City.
okay,
So Elon Musk.
yeah,
And when Solar City was started, it was to be a utility disruptor. Their goal was to come between the customer and the utility. And one thing that I think differentiated Silicon Ranch, we had worked so closely with TVA, and they were such a good partner for economic development. We said we want to start a company that collaborates with the utility. And I think that business model has really helped us in this part of the world.
yeah,
And I think it will be helpful in the dialogue with Alabama Power, because we're not there to do anything other than give Alabama additional tools in their toolkit to recruit business and industry and keep rates low. So I do think the engagement like this will show Alabama Power that solar done well can be a win-win-win for their customers, for their communities, and for them. So I am excited. Alabama is behind most of the states in the southeast
yeah.
in terms of solar adoption.
Well, it's no secret that Alabama is, kind of positioning itself as a manufacturing friendly hub in the United States, right? If we can't do it in China, guess what? Let's do it in Alabama. Like you mentioned, labor is relatively cheap when you look across the United States. And so, but I just, like the power thing is going to bite us in the butt if we don't address it. And so I think, projects like yours are extremely important. Do you know, about how long it takes to create or construct a normal power plant? I don't know if you know
So
to
for
come
a gas
online.
plant,
Yeah,
from planning, permitting, probably 7 years, and for a nuclear plant,
long.
probably over a
And
decade and a half.
how long is it going to take you to get up and running and developing power?
So we've been working on this project for about 3 years,
Yeah.
and it'll be uh, fully constructed and operating by the mid to end of 2028.
Okay, so a little bit less than the gas plant that you were discussing.
The build is so much quicker. Like, the beauty of solar is modular, it's distributed, and you can put it everywhere just about that there's ability to transmit power on the grid. You
Yeah.
don't have to, like a gas plant, you've got to figure out how you're getting the fuel to
Right.
that plant. The challenge why solar has taken a while to develop is not the construction. It really is all of the grid and interconnection studies that have already been done, but those take a while.
Yeah. Interesting. I just, the more the better. Um, an important question: any local contractors or labor being used during construction? Obviously, you have to, use some local folks because, you know, nobody's going to be traveling from Nashville coming down. So it is generating some jobs, correct?
It definitely. So that community in Bacon County, what was so rewarding to me is our contractor hosted a job fair, and in a pretty small community, we had over 150 people show up looking for jobs, and we're going to be able to find a spot for a very large portion of those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So I said we built this company to be a good economic development partner to the communities where we're investing. Like I said, we buy this land, we're going to be a part of the community. So we definitely want to hire local. And then our farming activities uh, have all of the ancillary needs, like we'll buy hay from local providers. So it's such a win-win-win. And I really want to work hard tonight to get that message out.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen any of their stuff, like go to their website. I think you have an article on there about kind of the sheep, concept, like having sheep graze amongst the solar panels and stuff like that. And I just think it's a really phenomenal idea to like merge those two. Like you have land that's not being really used, as long as the sheep can get to, the grass or whatever it is that they're eating, then they're happy.
It is so. One of the landowners who was sold us one of our sites in Georgia said, we've always done this in Georgia. We call it double cropping. You're generating electrons and
Yeah.
feeding a flock of sheep. So it works incredibly well. And it was interesting. We just were recognized by Time Magazine as one of the top 5 green tech innovation companies, and we're a very blocking and tackling infrastructure company.
Yeah.
But I think the recognition and why they ranked us out of all these other software companies and other things was our leadership around combining energy production with agriculture. We actually have a patent, so we own our own flock of sheep. We are the largest member of the National Sheep Improvement Program, but we also patented some technology to be able to have cattle under our array. And we just bought our first foundational genetics for a cattle herd.
Yeah.
And I think this is a incredible opportunity for rural America from both the power side and the ag side.
Yeah.
And we're excited to be at the forefront of it.
Squeezing all you can out of that land. I just think it's amazing. So, I guess, 2 last questions on this, and then I just have some ending questions that we ask people when they normally come on the question, or on the podcast. What's your message to the residents who feel like this was done to them rather than with them?
The first thing I'll say is I'm sorry. That wasn't the intent
Yeah.
by any means. Um, this is our first project with Alabama Power. Uh, the Public Service Commission process and how that all came forward was not how I would have liked. I would have liked this community meeting to be our introduction to the community. But I will say we're going to be neighbors. We're going to be meaningful investors in this community. And we are committed to making everywhere that we invest our capital and employ our people better because we're there. So we want to engage if there's ways we can adjust our project that are feasible within that large footprint that can mitigate a concern. Someone's worried about a setback from their house or their property. Come to us with that. This is something that is ultimately going to be a huge benefit. We're paying millions of dollars in tax revenue. We're not asking for a lot of services. We want to engage and be positive contributors to the greater community. And this is going to happen in Alabama. I think setting an example of how solar, I always say solar done right is an incredible asset in any community. Let's partner together and figure out how solar done right can benefit Baldwin County.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you kind of addressing some of those things. I know you've, I don't know, maybe you weren't shocked. I was shocked at the response, but where there's not information, misinformation will oftentimes fill the void, and so or fear, and I think really, I don't know. I just think you're getting a bad rap. How do you like to unwind?
Oh goodness! So I have two boys, and really just spending time with them. We're Preds fans. My oldest son is a big hockey fan.
Okay.
He's also a golfer, so I don't golf, but I do like watching him watching him golf, and then my youngest son is into all types of sports. So I like hanging out with my kids and watching them play sports.
Well, I've got 12 rapid fire questions for you. These are really hard questions, right? So you ready?
I'm ready.
Favorite type of music?
Oh goodness, probably from my generation, 90s.
90s, any pop, or were you an
A
alternative?
little bit alternative.
Who are you listening to? Be honest. Come on.
Violent Films was
Nice. I grew up. I love Violent Femmes, and Jane's Addiction was another one that I really liked too. So that's like beach music from the 90s.
Yeah, it was, and it was everywhere, and you had to be in front of a radio and wait for your favorite song to come on. So I just think it's good times.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Favorite type of food?
Probably Thai.
Have you spent enough time? One of the questions is favorite restaurant in Lower Alabama, but you may not have spent enough time.
So, it is fun. I miss. So when I grew up in Louisiana, I love seafood. Mobile has amazing seafood.
Yeah.
The seafood is not as good in Nashville. So
Nope.
that's why I would have said seafood if I was still living here or in Baton Rouge. But yeah, that's. But I love fresh seafood.
Yes, and we do have a lot of that here. Favorite restaurant, or no, sorry, favorite city outside of Mobile? You're Nashville. I'll say favorite city outside of Nashville.
Probably Boston.
Okay. It's interesting. I haven't been there in a while, so I couldn't speak, but I was there during the big dig back in the 90s, 97, 98 or something like that. Yeah. City you want to travel to but have yet to visit?
So want to go to Japan and go to Kyoto, and I love that culture.
Very cool. What comes to mind when I say guilty pleasure?
Ooh, glass of red wine after work.
There you go. Dogs, cats, or none of the above?
Oh, I have both.
Cool. Summer or winter?
I like summer.
Favorite movie or TV show?
Oh man, these are great questions. I'm not a huge TV or movie guy, but I did like, so part of my Japan thing. I like the miniseries Shogun that was on Netflix. Very well done.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to check it out. Favorite holiday?
Oh, without a doubt, Thanksgiving.
I'm going to ask you an add-on question. Favorite dish at Thanksgiving?
I totally don't care. I love having all my family together without the pressure of gifts and everything that kind of is all Christmas.
Yeah.
So I just love the camaraderie. Everyone's in a good mood. It's fall. Best time there's football on
Yeah,
TV.
yeah. No, I
So
get that. We actually just had an Easter party at our house, and every chance we get, we open our house to bring all the family together because I just think that's missing in today's culture a lot. And I didn't grow up with a family. It was my dad raised me, and so getting my extended family through my wife and all of our kids and stuff like that is nice. So, um, favorite color,
blue.
favorite cereal.
Oh goodness, ask me all this stuff. I don't really eat cereal.
That's it. Interview over. You don't eat cereal. No cereal, huh? Well, last question. Not a rapid fire. What are you most thankful for?
Oh, without a doubt. I have been so fortunate to have a supportive wife through this whole process. Starting a
Mhm.
company is difficult, and very long days. There's still very long days. I travel a lot,
Mhm.
doing things like this community engagement. Could not do it without her. And then we have two boys who are thriving, and I give her a lion's share of the credit for how good they are.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, tell people where they can find out more about, either the project or just more about the Silicon Ranch or, you know.
Sure. So there's I don't know when this is gonna air, but there's a community event tonight at 6:30 at
Okay.
the Bay Minette Civic Center, and we encourage people to RSVP and come to the event. You can meet our team, meet the manufacturer representatives. First Solar is going to have reps there. I would encourage if they can't make it in person tonight. We've put together a pretty fulsome web page, um, www.siliconranch, I think .com/Stockton,
Okay.
and a lot of information there. And there's a form. If you have a question that's not answered, put it on there. We won't just answer you. We'll answer you directly, but we'll put it on the website and
For everybody to
answer for
see.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Answer the questions before they're asked, for sure. Well, I want to thank you again. I know you're running and gunning today, but I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. Any final thoughts or comments you'd like to share?
Well, I just want to thank you. I love listening to podcasts. It's probably why I didn't have great answers on music and stuff, because I'm always listening to podcasts. There's such great ways to really learn, I think, with another level of understanding, because it's not as quick format as a lot of other forms. So I
Yeah,
appreciate your interest in this topic and
absolutely.
your comments, and look forward to getting together again as we advance this project through to construction.
Well, I wish you success. And this, I can't imagine that you won't be successful in it because you've done it so many times. But I, I, I welcome you. Bring more projects. I mean, I think, Alabama needs you, and I think our energy, infrastructure needs you as well. So I appreciate what you're doing. But Reagan, I want to appreciate your willingness to sit with me and share your journey as a business owner and entrepreneur. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.